I'm Ali Abouzalam, cannabis industry CEO, coach, and MMA fighter. Catch me on the Jesse T Show.
Ali, welcome to the Jesse T Show, brother.
Jesse, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Man, what a great conversation we've had up until now, and a lot of similarities and synergies, man. And I'm excited to kind of hear more about your story and your journey, and for other people to do the same as well. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, man. Ali Abouzalam, born and raised in Houston, Texas, to a Palestinian Muslim father and a Catholic Mexican mother. So I always like to tell people that my household was very spicy growing up, not only in the food, but the passion and the culture. So I'm kind of a spicy guy, got a lot of things going on with in the cannabis industry, in MMA, and also in the coaching world. Really been trying to strive to increase my connection with God and source, doing a lot more yoga and meditation, some things that we connected with on men's retreats, trying to empower my fellow brothers and be empowered by them, have a healthy balance of, ego, but also controlling the ego, and just super excited to be on the show, man. I've been following your IG page and some of what you've been doing, at least recently, and just think that there's a lot of contrast between your journey and mine. So thanks again for having me.
Yeah, brother, I'm so excited to be connected with you and build our brotherhood and our connection, see where our journey leads in the future. I'm sure a lot of cool things can happen, but man, there's so much that we play in similar spaces on. And you just talked about something I mentioned the other day on a podcast where, the term savage monk came up. I referred to myself as a savage monk. And what that meant was, you talk about ego and working on ego and working on your higher self, and, being in alignment with your higher self, with your spirituality and your walk with God, universe, source, whatever it is, the people that look into that, is for them. And for me, it's something, it sounds like it's very similar for you. And I want you to speak to this, even though we're kind of jumping right off the gates here. Talk a little bit about what that means to you in terms of, being in MMA, being a business person, growing up the way that you did, but also having this spiritual side to you. Like, how does that all come together? And what does that mean for you?
Yeah. I'm still figuring it out, Jesse. I'm still on the journey. I'm still on the path. But I think a big thing, so I grew up with Islam and the Catholic Church in my life primarily. And from Islam, I learned a lot about self-discipline. Like true Muslims, you're supposed to pray 5 times a day. You fast during Ramadan. You always have God on your mind. And I used to draw a lot of references to like bodybuilding in Islam. One year I actually did a men's physique show in 2015, competed in that. And I was thinking of how like you have to eat your meals and you're always thinking about your training. And Islam's kind of the same way of always keeping like peace at the forefront, right? When you say the word salamu alaikum, it means like peace be upon you, brother, peace be upon you, sister. It's a very beautiful religion. It gets a bad rap, but it's a very beautiful religion. Every Ramadan, even though after college, I didn't observe during college, but after I graduated college, every Ramadan, even though I'm always like, I don't need to do it this year, I observe the month of Ramadan and fast, no food or water, or a lot of things, kissing your partner, getting aroused. You're basically living like a monk from sunrise to sunset. This last year, it's during the lunar month. So this last year, it's like April, May. So you're talking like 6:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. No food, no water, no cursing, like monk mode for 30 days straight. So that discipline, that peace, and that part is living in solidarity with people who actually starve, who actually feel thirst and hunger on a daily basis. So I would say like Islam is a lot of peace. And same thing with the Catholic religion, peace, loving thy neighbor, even loving thy enemy, like Jesus says. And I think that's kind of like the lesson that I'm coming up with now, being an MMA fighter, is like loving thy enemy. So funny, quick story. My last MMA fight was actually, I'm an amateur right now, transitioning to become a professional. And it was my first opportunity to fight for an amateur title against another super tough guy. He flew out from Las Vegas to Florida to fight me for this title for a promotions called Impact Promotions. You guys can catch the fight on YouTube. You type in my name. And it was, I had noticed that even though when I'm training and sparring all the time, it's always like peace and that brotherhood feeling.
Oh yeah.
But I felt a lot of fear for this fight. This guy was definitely the most experienced and toughest opponent. And I went to like, I tried to go to like anger, you know, and I kind of went to like, I'm going to fuck this dude up, you know, kind of like went to this place trying to get myself hyped up. And I think what that resulted in for me was like kind of more anxiety and fear. So when I rewatch my fight, I'm like, I'm kind of spazzy. I'm not as focused. I'm not as clear.
You're not in the
And that was
flow.
not in the flow exactly. And that was a big lesson for me of now I'm kind of trying to juggle that of like that savage monk, right? Like, how do I bring this peace and appreciation and gratitude for my opponent, but also be game and ready to go once they lock up that cage?
Yes.
You know, like finding that balance. So I think I've had a lot of great foundational practices growing up with Islam, growing up with Catholicism. And now I have a really unique opportunity as an up and coming MMA fighter to be able to practice these things in like the very, very high stress situations. So yeah, it's been interesting with that.
Yeah, that's a beautiful contrast, right? You talk about religion and peace, and then you talk about, you know, MMA, and you talk about the goal is to outwill, outlast, outperform, outdo the man in front of you. And it's through physical contact. And at the same time, you can still have love in your heart for that person. I know it well. I mean, I've trained MMA for, you know, mostly Muay Thai kickboxing, and I'm a weirdo. I like it. Like, I like when I get punched in the face. I like the thrill of it. Like, I like everything. And it's, you know, I don't love getting really hit in the face hard, but enough to get me going. And it's like, okay, I need to step my game up a little bit and like cover up or move, slip, whatever it is I got to do. But like it gets me like tuned in. Like you said that you wanted to be more tuned in. But just going back to the thought and the overall idea of this is like, there's this, and I don't know if Bruce Lee said this, but it's always accompanied by a picture of Bruce Lee. And it says this beautiful quote, and I think it ties in perfectly to kind of where your mindset's at. It says, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
I love that one.
And just being prepared, being fit for service, being hard to kill. Tim Kennedy, an amazing MMA guy, current special forces operator. He's like the real Captain America. He's unbelievable. He always talks about being hard to kill. And not that you ever even need to use it. And I don't know if we've talked about this, but I remember growing up in Boston, I was bullied for years, physically got beat up a bunch. And it was just because I didn't have anyone really show me how to take care of myself. And I was afraid to hurt other people, really is what it was. And I let myself get my ass kicked for years, which made me tough physically, but it fucked with me emotionally and mentally. Once I started picking up MMA and I started learning how to defend myself, I learned what it was to get beat up when I was younger. So I didn't want to inflict that pain on other people unless it was absolutely necessary. And I could tell you, growing up in Boston, it's very like, it's very macho. It's very tough. It's kind of like people are always fighting. I used to get into fights when I didn't have the discipline or didn't know martial arts. And as soon as I picked up martial arts, I never got into a street fight again. So I don't know what this dynamic is. Have you ever experienced that before? Like, I don't know how you grew up, but like, is it safe to say that you only use your MMA in the cage?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And same experience before really starting to train seriously. It was a lot more likely for me to get into some sort of altercation and feeling that I had this need to prove something. And I recently read something that really resonated with me well, because it's like you said, you sometimes kind of feel like a weirdo of like, yeah, I like getting punched in the face and I like this. And sometimes people are like, dude, like, how do you do that? Like, why would you want to get in a cage and fight someone?